Okay, well, I think it's time to begin. Again, this is Jarl Jonas from Blackboard, and welcome to today's session on what's new in Coursesites. I'm joined by Sarah Bishop-Root, our Community Manager for Coursesites, and as you might know, I'm the Senior Program Manager for Coursesites, as some refer to me as Captain Coursesites. So thank you again for joining us today. If you haven't yet done so, you're just joining us, please feel free to use the audio setup wizard to make sure that you can hear everything correctly, and if you have a microphone attached to your computer, that you can ask questions and participate. I'm going to give a couple of hints of how we're going to communicate now. So as those of you who may have used Collaborate before may know, we have the chat window down here on the bottom left. You're welcome to use that throughout the session and enter questions as you think of them, as we're covering some different aspects here in today's session. If you have general comments, please feel free to enter those or enter questions. And this will be a good log for us to have questions as a parking lot. Above the participant panel, you'll see that there's a few emoticon icons. Occasionally, I'll ask for some feedback. And as Chris has demonstrated with the smiley face, thanks Chris, you're welcome to give some feedback throughout the session that way. Just to do a quick check, too, that everyone is hearing me correctly and we can move forward successfully, I'd want to ask that everyone give me a green check. And that's going to be the fourth icon there up above the participant panel. Expanding that and selecting the green check. Great. We have a lively bunch today, which is excellent. We'll see if you can keep up pace with the other sessions we've had this week. Okay, I think that was the majority. So I'm going to go ahead and begin. And our recording is started. So as a reminder, we are recording today's session, and we have had, this is the third session this week. We typically send out one of the best recordings. So you'll get us one of the recordings from this week. If for some reason we are not able to address your question, you have to leave early, and you want to know if something was covered, please feel free to send me an email. I have here on the screen, jarl.jonas@blackboard.com. Yes, and I should say good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're joining us from. Thanks, Sandy. So I do have to show you our disclaimer, as I will be making some forward-looking statements today, as we talk a little bit about the roadmap for Coursesites. We're going to be focusing mainly on the upgrade, but I'll be presenting just a quick glimpse at our annual calendar to give you an idea of why we are upgrading at certain times of the year. Okay, so as you know, please read through this, but otherwise the gist is that we may make some forward-looking statements and can change them at any point. So for today's roadmap, we want to first go ahead and talk a little bit about the release strategy. And this came through a question that I had received as we were talking about our upgrade, about why we're choosing this time of year to upgrade. So we'll go ahead and talk a little bit about that and give you a sense of other times throughout this year that you can expect us to have some upgrade windows and potential system unavailability. We're then going to dig into the system and take a look at how the upgrade, particularly to Blackboard Learn Service Pack 8, may affect you and your students in terms of the experience, as well as some of the new features that you can take advantage of, hoping to make you a bit more efficient, since that's one of the main themes of the upgrade. And then we'll leave you with some further resources beyond today's session to ensure that you and your students are set up for success. Okay, so talking a little bit about the Blackboard release strategy. This is really in regards to the Blackboard Learn release strategy. And just to give you a sense of how the product development team focuses their energy, they really try to balance three priorities that have been expressed by the client community, including all of you. So they first need to go ahead and focus on the maintenance of the system. Have there been issues that were discovered? Because different use cases have arisen beyond the testing period. So fixing those issues that may come up. Also enhancements. Some of you may be putting in enhancements in the suggestion box for Blackboard. Some send along to the support team or even me directly. So we take a look at these enhancements and prioritize them based on the frequency and the need within the client community. And then there are new features as we try to go ahead and continue to keep up with the teaching and learning needs of all of you. We'll go ahead and enter new features within the platform. And as the releases take place, these types of updates take place at different times of the year to try to help our clients as well as our Coursesites users better manage some of that information. So as you can see here, there's an annual calendar of our expected upgrades, not only for the Blackboard Learn service packs, but also when we would intend to upgrade Coursesites. So as we are doing and have done actually last evening, and the system is set to go with Service Pack 8, the other times of the year will be June, upgrading to Service Pack 9, and as you can see by the color there, that will be more of a maintenance release, whereas Service Pack 8 has a host of new features that we'll cover today as indicated by our key. Service Pack 10 expected out later this year between September and October, and then we will go ahead and upgrade soon after that general availability. Our promise to all of you is to keep Coursesites updated with the latest release at least within 30 days. So that's why it seems to be at strange times of year, sort of atypical from a typical institution when they may upgrade. But we are trying to keep our latest and greatest out there for all of you. So this is a back-to-school period we know is quite busy, but we're going to make sure that we get the upgrade in before any sort of major testing period like we did this term. And then in December, the Service Pack 11 will come out, and that most likely will be upgraded in January of 2013. Now again, just as a side note, based on questions that have come up in previous sessions, this is really focused on Blackboard Learn. There are other aspects in Coursesites, as you well know, such as the Blackboard Mobile, Blackboard Collaborate aspects of that, and Blackboard Connect for Learn. So those will also be updated throughout the year at various times, and they typically don't require downtime. And this is where we can usually invisibly update the platform and notify you through our newsletters prior to and afterwards about the new features and enhancements and fixes that have come through. Okay, so I just wanted to give you a sense of what that may look like, and you can begin to plan some of the year. So let's jump in and take a look at some of the upgrade highlights. To give you a general context of how, in particular, this upgrade is focusing on the Blackboard Learn, Release 9.1 and Service Pack 8, the product development team focused quite a bit on three major areas. One is improved insight, trying to give you a really good sense of how students are not only where they're going in your course, but how they're performing and how much time they're spending in different areas. So some of those have been added. Continued efficiency, so where we want to try to increase your efficiency, particularly within the grading and assessment areas. So we'll see some improvements there. And then pedagogy support. So here we're going to see the introduction of the course structures and themes in a different light. As some of you may know, having used Coursesites, we introduced the course structures and themes first in Coursesites, and then they were rolled into Service Pack 8 from a core product standpoint. So they do have a different look and feel, as we'll cover today, but I think they've been greatly enhanced, and I think you'll really enjoy those improvements. Now, at this point, I'm going to be launching into the system soon, but before I do, I want to make sure that you have a visual roadmap of where we're going to be going, since I won't be utilizing PowerPoint. What I want to start out is giving you a sense of the new look and feel, some of the updates that we've made to Coursesites with some of the new branding, taking advantage of some of the new cascading style sheet and theme capabilities in Service Pack 8, and then talking a bit about a great navigational feature that you can take advantage of that will help you increase your ability to surf through the system more quickly. Then we're going to take a look at what we're now calling the Quick Setup Guide. So this is where you'll find really the crux of the new course structure and theme capabilities. And then we'll dig deep into those capabilities to show you how it will affect your existing courses. And then I'll demonstrate when you create a new course how that has changed in this upgrade. Then we'll take a look at the assessment features, the automated regrading. And this is going to allow you to automatically regrade a test. Perhaps you marked the question, one of the answers incorrectly, and the students were marked incorrectly, so you can now adjust that, and Coursesites will go ahead and regrade the tests for you, saving you much valuable time. Negative marking is a new way to adjust our partial credit, and this is a way for us to take away points when students are answering questions incorrectly rather than just not assigning points. So we'll take a look at where we can go ahead and activate that. And then I will return to the PowerPoint to take a look at the activity reporting, our time on task reporting, giving you some examples there, and then taking a look at the performance reporting. And this is where we can now see if we are aligning our courses with the K-12 standards uploaded into Coursesites. We used to be able to see course coverage, what elements are being covered based against the objectives that we've aligned to, but now we can see how students are performing against those objectives. So that's our roadmap. It will probably be about the full hour, depending on the host or the volume of questions that you have today. If before I move on into the system, is there any other aspect of the upgrade or any other questions that you have initially brought to the session that you want me to be aware of to try to cover today? If so, please feel free to enter that into the chat box now. Otherwise, if you don't have a question, go ahead and give me a green check, and that will let me know that you're ready to go. Okay, it looks like a good majority are set to go. And Sandy, I can answer that question pretty quickly too before we begin, so thank you for that. Sandy, you asked, has the upgrade been reasonably successful and stable? I have to be quite honest with you that in particular we paid a lot of attention to the testing of this upgrade ourselves just because of the movement from the structures and themes into the core. But overall, I really feel that the upgrade went quite well. And so far, even on our staging environment, while that's it's a load balance system, but only with 2 servers, it's done pretty well. So I'm pretty pleased with it so far. And based on what I'm hearing too from the managed hosting area, clients seem pretty pleased, particularly those who have participated within the beta. And Sandy, you ask, does it support extensions and add-ons as well? So yes, if you are an enterprise client and you license the full Blackboard implementation, then that allows you to go ahead and tie into legacy systems like student information systems, or even build your own add-ons. So a lot of what we've built here in Coursesites is utilizing what's known as our building blocks framework. And so we try to utilize that to demonstrate how flexible the platform can actually be. So Lennon, data may be lost during this update. No, I'm not sure really what you might be referring to, but no data will be lost. But if you need to clarify further, let me know. Okay, so I'm going to now share my browser with you all. So give me a moment while that loads for you. I'm going to pull up the chat window here on the side just to make sure too. I need either an audio or visual confirmation. Give me a green check if you can now see the home page for Coursesites. And there might be a little gray box to the left, but that's just my chat box open. Great. Okay, good. So that's most everyone. That gives me some confidence that we're good to go. So this is our first somewhat visual change that I wanted to point out. When you come to the new home page, you'll see that we've taken away the background image. And while I was somewhat partial to that, I felt it was a bit dated, as you might have. And what we're trying to do is create a more seamless and efficient experience overall. So we knew that that was creating some larger load times, and we wanted to make sure that we reduce the load times of different pages. Okay. Otherwise, similar features, please, if you haven't yet ever come to the Getting Started area, make sure that you're visiting that. It's a reminder about how to get started, but we do have a good host of videos. We post our recorded webinars here, and we update our instructor and student guides. So we're trying to make these a bit more visible for you all as well. The next change is going to come when you log in. Okay, so when you click Login, this is where we've also removed the pop-up, trying to create a better experience for those who may not be able to keep up with the compatible technology. So here it's a separate page in and of itself, but we also wanted to create more visible access to support. Okay, so you now have the support button, and you still also have your forgot password button. If you haven't yet already, you can also sign in with the social service credentials that we have here. And if you're not familiar with that, let me know and I can show you how to do that at the end. All right, so we would go ahead and just log in as we normally would. I'm going to be using my sample instructor account today. Okay. So as I sometimes do, I've posted a little notice for everyone that we have upgraded and for you to take advantage of. So this is a recording from earlier this week, a quick guide so you can get to know a bit more of what we're talking about today, and then also a download guide for your students. So you're welcome to go ahead and download that and send that to them so they're not necessarily as surprised. We did send that on an email last night as well, hopefully which you received. So aside from that, you can see that we brought the branding inside, so that clean, green, fresh feel, getting rid of that somewhat cluttered image, as some have given us feedback, up at the top. And then also you may notice that there's a new personalization bar here at the top. So what we wanted to do is make sure that you are able to experience the capabilities of Blackboard in Coursesites, and that's one of the features here, is being able to customize your experience. So by being able to personalize, you can now add additional modules to this page within the list that we've made available, and that would include perhaps if you're an avid NBC fan, you want to see what's going on in different areas. It's still African American History Month, so we can add that and then go ahead and submit that through. Now everything that I'm doing is particular to my login. And what we also can do is adjust this over to the different columns so that we get a better view. And then I can watch the movie when I'm ready. So the other modules are also able to be adjusted. So for instance, if you're tired of seeing my ugly mug up here, and you want more of the notification modules up front without having to scroll, then you feel free to go ahead and adjust those as well. Okay, we have locked down the very top row because we do feel that these are the most important tool sets and areas for you to visit, but everything has pretty much been able to be moved around. Okay, one thing I also want you to notice, somewhat related to the upgrade, is a fix. Our notification modules are now working once again. So I want to deeply apologize for those not working correctly, but now definitely seeing much improvement in this area. So please look at your modules to make sure that those are being populated. You can see I have a good number of alerts and information in my What's New, and in particular that needs attention are assignments and tests that are being submitted for you to review. And if I dig down to the particular submissions, I could jump right to the grade page, saving myself a good number of clicks. I'm going to skip this for right now just to continue through my workflow, but I'll show you, where we'll end up in a second, depending on your familiarity with assignments. Okay, so the home page, the login page different, and the initial system page has changed just somewhat. I'm happy to hear your reactions too about what you think of the new look and feel, as well as what your students, how they may react. So feel free to enter that in the chat session if we can have that feedback. The personalized page here allows you to change the color. So in addition to adding modules, in case your mood is a bit different than what we've set, feel free to go ahead and adjust that. I'm in the mood as a somewhat spring day here in DC. I want more of a summer feel. We can go ahead and update that area. And then you can always return back to the default if that's what you'd like to do as well. Okay, so just a couple of new tools in your students' hands. This is going to be both available for you and your students. I'm going to stop there very quickly and see if there are any initial questions. You'll see a little gray box pop up in the audio in the window area as I'm taking a look at some of the comments and questions that have come in so far. Okay, Lennon, you made a comment about the desktop sharing is fast and the presentation, in my case, slow. I'm using the Blackboard Collaborate tool, which is basically what powers the Coursesites Live capability. So let me know if that's what you're referring to, and can definitely go ahead and follow up with you. I do want to make a note that in the case that you're not comfortable, this session is being recorded. My email, I gave it earlier, but Sarah can go ahead and enter it in the chat box as well, because what I would not want to do is publish your email if you weren't comfortable in case we do distribute this recording from today's session. Okay, so no questions on the initial aspect so far. What I'm going to do now is dive into the course. So we've covered a little bit of the new look and feel, but I want to show you what will happen on the first time that you enter into a class. Okay, so a couple of things. Your tab is still going to launch, as that's a Coursesite specific feature, but we now have this new quick setup guide. And this is what I referred to earlier, where we can now see the structures and themes have been provided within this area. Okay, and there's a couple of other places that you can go ahead and access the structure and theme choices. But for your existing classes, what I would suggest is that you hide this for now, and we'll cover that in just a brief moment. And take a look at what your course looks like after hiding the new quick setup guide. Okay, now that the themes have been incorporated into the core product, there were some changes that had to be made. Overall, I think the themes look much better than the ones we started with, and in some cases, some themes didn't make the cutting room floor, if I'm using that phrase correctly, but some didn't make it over. So if we take a look at the new theme selector, we can see that a good number of color choices have come over, some new custom Coursesites ones that we've added, a design category, seasonal, more of a structure one from other LMSs, and subject-based. Okay, so mine's an oceanography class, so I'm going to choose the one called Ocean. Now I'm looking right now at the default theme, and I'm going to change that to Ocean here using the new selector. So that changes pretty quickly using that theme selector like it had in the past. So we've tried to map, if you had a theme chosen in your course, we've tried to map it as close as possible to the new themes. In the case that you find that your course went back to the default theme, please feel free to review that area, the theme selector, and choose one that suits your style. Okay, in the guide that we did email last night gives you a list of how we've mapped the theme, so please refer to that as well to get a good sense of what themes change into the new ones. The other area that you can change your theme without having it happen instantaneously is now in your customization area and in your teaching style. This used to be just named Style, but now it's Teaching Style. It's also where you can go ahead and review your structures, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. But here we have the theme preview thumbnails, and this is best in case you have students in the course, you're not sure about exactly what you want it to look like. You can have a glimpse here, and then if you want to go ahead and change it to something else, you just make your selection. This one down here that I like. All digital learning one is fun. And then you would apply and submit. Okay, so the changes that you're making here in your course, very similar to what you had done in the past. Your students would then go ahead and see this change. You can see there's a new bubble notification that lets you know where to change that theme once again, or as a reminder, you can go down to your control panel and look at the teaching style. Okay, let me talk briefly about the structures for a second here. So structures, they will not change your existing course, and nothing will change, at least from the upgrade standpoint. Nothing will change unless you activate a new structure in your course. So if you have students in your course, I recommend that you not play around with the structures until you're ready to create a new one, and I'll be demonstrating how to create a new one today and how that process may have changed. But just to give you a quick glimpse into the area, you can see that the structures, for the most part, have remained the same, although the core product development team has gone ahead and enhanced the course menus as well as the descriptions, and I can even click on an area of the menu and I get a nice pop-up telling me exactly what can be found in that area. Okay, in the case that you don't have students, you're still in the exploratory phase, or you're in the course building phase, you're welcome to go ahead and apply a structure. And note that you have some sample content like we have in the past that you can include. Okay, I'm not going to submit through at this point. I'm going to show you the full process from scratch. If you do this with an existing course, then it'll just go ahead and reconcile with your current menu and build on top of. So any areas that have content that exist in your course already will remain, as well as your tool areas. Any new content areas that we have here in the menu will then just appear at the top. So it'll require some adjustment and cleanup on your part. Okay, and if I want to get back to that quick start guide, just to take a look, I also have that in my customization menu, and I can go ahead and always launch that for myself, no matter whether I've hidden that or not. And this is another area where you can review the structures, you can review the theme thumbnails, and then additional links to some training, as well as reminders about how you get students involved in your course. Okay, so just expect that pop-up when you come into your course, and please take a look at your course environment and take a look at the themes. Again, some of them we have returned you back to the default because the one you had previously chosen may not exist any longer. Okay, now while I'm here in the course, what I do want to show you is a new navigational element that we call task-based navigation. And this is something that is going to be, I think, help you out significantly when you're particularly marking some activity. So I'm going to come into the needs grading area. Okay, now the new task-based navigation is something that is available here next to your home button. The home button takes you to your landing page of your course. The task navigation takes you to a recently visited and other courses that I want to visit. So if I'm in the needs grading page of my oceanography class and I want to now review student work in my astronomy course, okay, I haven't visited this class just yet, so of course this is going to pop up, but we can make sure that doesn't happen again. But you can see I flipped easily over right to the needs grading page without having to come back to my course sites, open the course, scroll down to the needs grading page and launch that. So basically within 2 clicks I'm here at this page and I can now launch my grading workflow. Our course in tab feature specific to Coursesites is still available, so I can hop between course to course, but that's something that will take you to the landing page. So depending on your use case in that regard, feel free to use either the tabs, or feel free to use your task-based navigation. I do want to note that there is some behavior that I don't want you to be, I want to make you aware, because I think this is great, but occasionally you might find that as you switch between content areas, there's a unit content area here in this course, but there's not necessarily the same content area there. So if I try to use my task-based navigation and come to the oceanography class, it's going to be looking for that same exact content area. Okay, but it's not going to find it. So in that case, what I'm going to do is get this little error. And that just means that it looked for that same content area, but it didn't exist on my menu. And it just takes me to the landing page of my course. Okay, so don't be concerned about that error. That's been designed that way, and you can close that out. Okay, now that I'm back in the oceanography class, just a few more elements that I want you to be aware of. As you can see, as I'm rolling over my menu, I'm in edit mode, but the previous design had the scroll bars and the contextual menus here available without having to roll over. But we're really trying to create a clean, fresh feel and not too cluttered for you. So as you're rolling it over, that's when my tools appear. And similarly, when we're in content areas, our new content items will also act the same. So the scroll and the move bars will appear once I roll over, and my contextual menu will go ahead and appear as well. So I can easily edit this item, and I have access to all the tools that I had before on each of these items or these folders, or as we dig deeper into the course, your tests, your announcements, all the same. Just roll over that item, and you get access to the additional options, okay, or the move tool. And if you hadn't already found it, your keyboarding move tool is here as well. So this enables you to move items using your mouse or your keyboard rather than having to drag and drop. Okay, so really depending on how you like to do things the best. And then lastly, the options here in your content area is pretty much the same, just different names here, just assessment rather than build assessment, and tools rather than interactive tools, and publisher content rather than textbooks. So at present we have the ability for you to search and create links to textbooks to be purchased online, and also the ability for you to integrate and pair your courses with McGraw-Hill content in their connect and create web properties. Okay, so just a little bit of a reorganization there in case you're looking for those tools. Okay, so we covered the look and feel. We covered a bit of the course quick setup wizard. What I want to do now is show you when you're ready to create a new course, how to go ahead and do that and how that has changed somewhat here in the system. So I'm going to come and close out my other tabs to clear up the screen a little bit. I think what I'm going to have to do, I'm at my limit in my course as I was practicing around, so let me quickly come into one of these, and make them unavailable. So I can create a new course, and that's a reminder to all of us that we can have 5 courses available at one time. But I can have a number of courses in development or unavailable. Okay. So my workflow here is that I'm ready to create a new course. It could be that you're copying as well, so that can be done from within the course, but I'm just going to pretend I'm creating one from scratch to show you how this process has changed a little bit. I can launch the workflow from the ribbon up here through the instructor module or the tools module. So as you can see, we wanted to make sure you didn't miss this workflow. As we come to this page, it's going to be somewhat similar, but a bit different. Here you're going to input your general course information, your title and your ID. Okay, and then your description is going to appear publicly within your course home pages, linked to your instructor home page, so that's important to put in there. Now this step 2 is optional. This is if I have a course package already. Perhaps I'm coming from a previous implementation of Blackboard where I've exported a course that had come from one of these versions, or perhaps a CE Vista platform, and the update to this new version is allowing the import of Angel 7, 4, and 8 packages. Okay, as well, there might be other LMSs, and we want to experiment a bit with Coursesites. We can import Common Cartridge 1.0 and 1.1 packages. So I'm not going to do that today. I'm just going to start from scratch to show you the new workflow, but feel free to go ahead and import your packages here. So in the past, at this point, we would have chosen our structures and themes. But right now, we're going to submit, and this is going to build the course for us and then show us the new setup guide. So we're going to take a deeper dive into this now. So this first area is reminding us about the title and description we've entered. So feel free to change that. Check your spelling if you'd like. And then we can have a deeper exploration of the structure since we don't have students in the course. Okay, the structures have been recategorized a little bit. So just take a look down the menu as you have more time on your own. But as you can see, as I choose particular areas to review, I again get a little description. I have a Learn More pop-up that I can review, and I can even click on the menu to give me a bit of a sense of what the menu items would lead to. So some are tool links, some are content areas, and that gives you a good sense of how it's been established. Okay, we have the content category. So this is all dependent about how you like to organize your class. Focus on systems. Perhaps you're coming from another system and you want to ease that transition. So we can't mimic those environments exactly, but try to give you a good sense of how that might look in this environment. And then a timely category. So I know the course that I teach actually has a weekly setup, so that might be something that I choose. Once you're ready, click the Use This structure, and then I'm going to choose to use the content examples just so you see how that's going to change a little bit from the previous way it's behaved before. Okay, once you're ready here, we can use the theme selector once again. Choose one of my favorites. So that used to be called Ruby, but it's now Garnet. And then I don't need to learn any more at present, so I'm just going to go ahead and select to make sure that it doesn't pop up anymore, and then apply my changes. Okay, so we see again we have the reminders of the themes that we've chosen with the new notification bubble, and the reminder of the structure that we've chosen, and where we go to go ahead and find the teaching style where we might change the structure if we didn't like our selection at this time. Okay, so if I come into some of these areas, you can see that perhaps like in the journal area, we've given you some sample content here as well. So even giving you a bit more embedded information about journals themselves, and this is information that's not available to students. Okay, if we come into a content area like previous weeks, you'll see that there's a new type of content item, and this is only able to be built when you apply a structure like I just did. You can see that the squigglies in the background. Okay, this identifies this is a new type of item that's specifically a reference for you about this particular area. It's not available to students, so you're welcome to keep it. Keep it at the bottom of this area once you begin to add your own. Okay, or once you decide to edit these items, then they would become available to students, and you could reuse them if you're all set to go. Okay, but further links for you and further training right here within the course itself, and giving you some sample weekly folders with some activities and some best practice recommendations, based on Blackboard's experience with online learning. Okay, so a good abundance of material for you right here within the course, trying to really kickstart that development process for you and get more familiar with how to utilize the platform in different ways. Okay, at any time too, you're able to change the menu as we saw earlier. We just come in if you don't like course dialog per se, just rename that link or go ahead and remove it altogether. Okay, if you need to call it course overview, course outline instead of syllabus, the same thing. And if you need to add more, just use your add menu item here and go ahead and add a type of menu item that would suit your course the best. Okay, so we've taken a deep dive into the quick setup guide and the new course creation process. I'm going to go ahead and open the chat once again to see if any questions have come through, since I've been covering quite a bit. So you might see again a gray box come up as I check that. Okay, no questions. Oh. Alyssa, okay, there you go. Are there changes to how to copy a course? So not presently, but let me make sure I show that too. Pardon me. before we move on, I can show that pretty quickly because that's an important end of term feature. That's going to be down here in your packages and utilities and your course copy. Okay, so here you have the option of copying materials into an existing course, and that would be if I'm going ahead and copying materials between courses that already exist, as it says, or I might be wanting to just have an exact copy of my current course. There has been a new button that was added to make sure it's easier for you to select your material and go ahead and select all. The settings, though, goes ahead and recognizes what's in the course, and you can go ahead and adjust those as you see fit. Okay. Great. Excellent. So I think it's time, since we've covered a good number of the look and feel, the course setup wizard items, that we move into some of the new assessment enhancements. So for this, I'm going to be utilizing my oceanography class, where I do have some existing assessments. And first we'll cover the automated regrading. Okay, so what I'm going to do is come into an existing test. The use case and scenario here is that a test has already been deployed, and I mistakenly marked one of the answers. So the students were marked incorrectly. They were marked as wrong if they had answered it correctly. So I need to go and adjust the test. Okay, so I can now do that and not have to go and regrade the test myself. For those of you with a good number of students, I hope that you're clapping at the moment. But I would just come to the test in question in my test area, and you can see that I have a test that already has a couple of attempts. It may be that not all students have started. I discovered it in the midst of a couple students taking it. I can quickly come in and apply these changes that I'm showing you today. Okay, so on any of these items, you have the option of perhaps I just want to remove the question altogether. Just make it not count. Okay, I can go ahead and select a particular question, delete, and regrade. Okay, just knowing that if you do delete, your total points would be affected, although it'll still calculate in the Grade Center for you in the My Grades area, but it just might affect your overall grading scheme. If I want to go ahead and just recalculate the grades, let the answers stand, check through all the student attempts, I would come into the question itself, edit the question, okay, you can see I get another warning on the attempts, and then check the question, or check the answer that should have been noted as correct. And then you can see instead of just submit, we have submit and update attempts. Another warning, is this your final answer? Yes, I definitely want this to update the students' responses. And now it's gone ahead, edited the questions, and it updated all of the student attempts. So some students may not be affected if they answered it incorrectly anyway, but for those that answered it correctly should get the points that they deserved. Okay, the other option is if you happen to make a mistake on your point values. That sometimes happens. I know I've done that before. If for some reason I wanted this true-false to be 2 points rather than just 1, then I can come also and adjust my point value and update and regrade all current attempts on this assessment as well. Okay, same thing. So those three use cases, how we might utilize the automated regrading capability. Again, come into your test area and go ahead and modify the test in question. As a reminder, this will also affect the My Grades area, so your students should be seeing that as long as you have something like that on your menu. Here it's called Check Your Grades, which leads to the student My Grades view. Okay. Then we have what's known as negative marking. And this might be something that you do during your test construction rather than after. Although if you do change your point values, the automated regrading will accept those changes. But if we take a look at a test that hasn't yet been taken, I'll show you how we go ahead and turn on the negative marking. And this is something that I've found more in medical instruction, where in a situation where we're testing students on particular reactions to or applications of medication, we want to make sure that they're answering correctly, their knowledge is at the optimal level, so we can take away points if they are marking questions incorrectly, since it could be a life-threatening situation. Okay, here I have a good number of questions already created. Just to save time, so you don't have to watch me typing, I'm going to modify one of my questions. But an important first step that you need to take to have negative marking available is to come into your question settings. This is an often forgotten area. It's also important because it's where you can add your images, files, and web links to questions. But here, okay, we have a partial credit option. I've already enabled that, but with the upgrade, I now get a new negative point option. Okay, I need to have both selected in order for me to apply negative marking. As you can see, once I deselect partial credit, that other option is taken away. Once I select, I have the option for negative points. Right, so submit those changes through, and that applies to this test only. Each test has its own test settings, so this is not going to be a universal change. It's going to be within each test. And your negative marking is available on multiple choice, multiple answer, and matching questions. So those 3 M-type questions. So I come into my multiple choice question, select Edit. Once that loads, you can see I now have the allow a partial credit, and then once I choose that, I can then take away negative points. Okay, so the partial credit and negative points are going to be addressed here in the partial credit box. And if I go ahead, and let's say I just want to go ahead and take away 1 point if the student selects this particular answer, I can do that on all of them. Okay, for those that are not the correct answer. And again, then I'm basically penalizing the student for not answering correctly rather than just nothing happening at all or not assigning any points. Okay, so if the student selects the wrong answer, they actually get 1 point taken away out of the total rather than nothing getting taken away. Okay, so that's our automated regrading and negative marking capabilities. I'm going to launch the chat window again, see if any questions have come through, any reactions that you have. Please feel free to enter those in the chat now. So Sam, you mentioned, and will this work after all students have taken the test? So yes, in the case that you saw here, I had 2 attempts already on that test. In case that you have 25, 50, 100 students, it might take a little longer for the complete status to update depending on how many students you have, but yes, it's meant for editing a test and regrading after it's already been taken. And then both of the new features can be combined. The negative marking could be combined with the automatic regrading, but you might want to let students know if that's something that you're going to apply in that situation, since that wasn't something that they should expect from the very beginning. So Sandy, you say if so would work for second marking. Are you asking if there were multiple attempts on the test? Yeah, just let me know what you mean by second marking, because I'm not too sure exactly what you mean by that. And while you're doing that, just wanted to show you, we're going to go back to the session. We're coming up on top of the hour. We're going to go back to the PowerPoint, as I mentioned earlier, now to show you some of the reporting capabilities. But I wanted to at least show you where you can launch these reports in your evaluation and course reports area. Okay, we now have a new report called the Course Activity Overview and User Activity Inside Content Areas. Okay, so the Course Activity Overview and that other report will show you the time on task of students. And I don't have many in here that I've clicked in a while, so I'm going to come back to the PowerPoint to show you how that looks. And then we also have course performance. So this is, again, in particular for those of us who are assigning or aligning K-12 standards to our course content, assessments, and activities. A course performance report can now be created to show how students are performing against those aligned standards rather than just coverage as we had before. Okay, so I think these were features that were being waited for quite a while, and hopefully you can make good use of those in your course. So I'm going to stop the sharing and come back to the meeting environment again. And just to show you what those would look like if we had some actual data. Back up a little bit here. Okay, so our course activity report, or how some people refer to time on task, is showing us here a course overview for all students across a particular period of time, the number of hours that have been spent in that course. Now the screenshot is somewhat limited. Down below in the report we actually do get course overview by item. And this would basically give us the report of how much time users have spent in the blog area, the discussion board area, the journals, and with other types of items like that. So it can be broken down by particular item, and then we can go even further to have it be broken down by student. So here we're looking at Jake's time on task in October. Okay, we can see the number of hours where he's spending, and then also it's broken down a student activity by item down below, where I see what time he's spending on a particular task or a series of tasks that we have provided. And this information can be downloaded or displayed in HTML format, PDF, Excel, and Word. Okay, and then for those of us, again, using the standards, aligning that with our course content, anybody who here is representing or teaching in the K-12 arena hopefully will be able to take use of this. So here is an example of a report in a class where Ohio mathematics standards have been aligned with content, and we can go ahead and take a look at how students are performing against those standards on the various types of assessments in the course. Okay, so this is an overall average, and then we have the ability to dig deep into the particular student performance, again based on the types of activities and alignments provided in the course. And then just as a reminder, we still have the course coverage report, so if we are aligning standards into our course, we can see what types of standards are being, how much of our content is being covered and aligned to standards. So a good way for us to know overall of the graded content versus the not graded content. Okay. And that then completes our roadmap for today in terms of looking at the updates to Coursesites with the upgrade to Service Pack 8. We've taken a look at the new look and feel and how we can navigate between courses using the task navigation. We looked at the quick setup guide, okay, and how to go ahead and use that to perhaps change our themes, maybe our structures if we don't have some students in our course, and also how to change the course structures and themes in the other area of the class. Now as a quick pop quiz, can you remember where on your control panel to access the course structure and theme change tools? Not in the course setup wizard, but where in the area on your control panel can you find the course structures and themes to change? Excellent, Paul. Yep, teaching style. And do you remember what area of the control panel teaching style the link is embedded within? Great, Alyssa. Excellent. Just as a little reminder there. Okay, then we looked at our automated regrading. We looked at the negative marking. Okay, and then we just briefly had some looks at how the performance reporting and activity reporting would look within a class. Okay, I do want to leave you with a good number of resources, as we mentioned earlier. Okay, if you're not already familiar, each of you have been re-enrolled into the new Getting Started course. It's similar to the other one, but we've made updates based on the upgrades with new screenshots. Still a pretty scratch of the surface of how to put a course together, but I think packed full of good information for you, particularly on how to build and facilitate. And we've also made available the new Coursesites Instructor Quick Guide. Okay, so this is something where you can go to the homepage, which I showed earlier. And just for some general Blackboard updates, you can definitely look at the on-demand tutorials at ondemand.blackboard.com. And the manuals are updated at help.blackboard.com as well. Okay, if you happen to be an enterprise client, you want to see a bit more information about administrative capabilities, you can come to blackboardlearn.com/new. It also will go ahead and give you some instructional capabilities. And then in the case that you are an administrator joining us today, or you have an administrator you're familiar with, and your institution is thinking about upgrade to Service Pack 8 yourselves, you're welcome to join a cohort. So you can go ahead and talk with others that have upgraded or are planning to, and go through a great planning process together. And that's at blackboard.com/cohort. Okay. So at this point, definitely feel free to input any further questions that you have. I'm hoping that we answered your basic questions that we started out with today, and then happy to hang on for a couple more moments to answer any other questions that come through. Do want to thank you all for your time, and thank you for using Coursesites. Again, feel free to contact me if you have questions beyond today at jarl.jonas@blackboard.com. Go ahead and publish that out here on the page. Okay. Now, Liz, I see your question about the browsers. So as we do upgrade, we do recommend that you look at the browser compatibility matrix or the client technology matrix, because it's really more operating system and browser compatibility matrix. The most current versions of IE, like IE8 and 9, should be suffice, as well as all the updated versions of Firefox and Chrome. So if you are running into particular issues, if they're not the older browsers, please feel free to let me know or contact support. And let me put up their email address here as well. And occasionally we might not be able to, sometimes it could be a Coursesites customization conflicting with a browser, but that's what I would just need to know more, if it's our core product or if it's our customizations.